Welcome to another edition of Client Success Stories. I'm Coach Jackson, and I'm here with my man Justin. And Justin did the program dirty. He lost 23 pounds, 10% body fat. Here's crazy. He increased his strength score by 668 points or 110% while also in the program. Justin, these are some absolutely absurd numbers. You did the program dirty. You're in the Hall of Fame. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Justin. I do remote-based work. I just wanted to make a change with my overall fitness and with Jackson and his background. I wanted to reach out and he's been helping me facilitate that change.
Well, fantastic. I want to take it back because I always want to find out, and I'm super curious to talk about, like, where were you at prior to joining the program, right? Where was your headspace? Where were you at physically? And also, why you wanted to make this change.
Sure. Yeah, like I was saying, I got into remote-based work. My job went fully remote, and it's a different lifestyle change. So for me, I got a desk job. I'm sitting down all the time, not being active, not moving. Next thing you know, I'm going from like 220 pounds to almost 260, just from that lack of exercise, lack of movement, mobility, and it started creeping up. And then I was like, you know what? I can't do this. My energy was tanking, my motivation was tanking, and I was like, I got to make a change.
Okay. And you had the tonal. So had you already invested in the tonal and were then using it because you wanted to make a change? Or I guess, how did the tonal kind of play into things for you?
So I got the tonal just because I looked at the convenience factor of me having the gym at home and my nearest gym being about almost 30 minutes away. And I knew if I had to make that commute almost on a daily basis, I wouldn't get the level of consistency that I wanted for myself. So being able to do something that no excuses, I have it at home, you just need to do it. And when I first got it, I was so intimidated by the programs and everything that was on there. I didn't know where to start. So that's where I reached out.
Got it. And I think that's pretty common for a lot of people, which is a couple of things that you kind of touched on there. Number one, the convenience of the tonal is fantastic. Number two, it can be a little overwhelming because you're not really sure where to start, what to do, and you're not a fitness coach, so you need some direction. But the other thing you mentioned was your lifestyle changed, and that then triggered obviously some weight gain. And you see this all the time, and you hear it on social media, and I hear it from clients and prospects all the time, which is like, oh, my metabolism has changed. It's just I have a slow metabolism now. And what's funny is that as people get older, their metabolism actually doesn't change as much as you think. But what happens is their lifestyle significantly changes. And not only has our lifestyle changed significantly, but even in the last few years, post-COVID, we've seen a drastic change in work from home, which just reduces the physical activity levels even more, causing an even more greater lifestyle change. So part of the problem is that just so many people are so much more sedentary. Even if you're exercising a couple of days a week, typically you're not getting a whole lot of steps in, a lot of activity, a lot of movement, sitting at a desk all day, myself included. So that's usually where we need to be a little bit more strategic about what we're doing, make sure we're getting active and really shifting, not just a workout, but like shifting what we're doing from a lifestyle perspective. So kind of talk to me about like, where were you at, I guess, like, mentally? Was there a moment? Was there a decision point? Was there like a look in the mirror? Like, what was the trigger that got you to want to, potentially work with us and seek help? And the reason I ask is just because I'm always curious about these kind of like inflection points in people's life where they're on one side and then there's a trigger and then boom, now they're on the other. And I'm curious like what that inflection point or trigger was for you, if there was one.
Sure. Just a quick background. I was prior service. I was in the military. So I
Thank you for your service.
Years. Thank you. And I spent nearly 10 years and I was working out every day. I always stayed motivated. I always stayed in shape. And that started, once I started remote, I wasn't able to recognize myself anymore. So when I started putting on the weight, and then I noticed a huge change in my energy. And not only that, it was like my motivation for doing anything was like so low. And so with all the culmination of everything, I was like, look, I can't continue moving forward like this and be expecting to have a positive lifestyle or the kind of lifestyle that I want for myself. And I kind of already had the instilled discipline that you have to put in the work. You just got to make things happen and put action into words. So, or words into action. And that's what I did. And that's where it was like, okay, you know what? You just got to do it. Take the time, make the investment, get it done.
Fantastic. Well, again, I appreciate your service. My dad served in the military. My grandpas on both sides served in the military. My uncle served in the military. Ironically, I didn't serve in the military though, but a lot of my family did. So thanks for your service. Do certainly appreciate that, especially 4th of July coming up here. What's funny is that we've had a lot of people that have served in the military that have gone through the program. And, what's funny is that a lot of them end up in this same seat that you're in doing one of these interviews for me because they do so well as they go through the program. So I'm sure there's something there with maybe the identity that you create when you're in the military that then now kind of you reclaim and recapture at this point. And what I mean by that is like you mentioned that you struggled to recognize who you saw in the mirror. And I think there's a dissonance that happens with people. And I've heard this before from people where all of a sudden I'm looking in the mirror or I put on some clothes or I get outside or I take my shirt off or whatever the thing is. And I didn't recognize myself or I thought, who's this guy? This is not who I think of myself as. And I think that dissonance can cause, to your point, an inflection point or like a trigger of like, oh, I need to change this. And reclaiming that old identity, that athlete that you were when you were in the military, when you're doing PT all the time. Obviously, we've seen the results. And visually, I mean, 23 pounds, 10% body fat, those numbers sound good, but visually, the change is stunning. It's incredible, the difference between your start and your finish. So, as you kind of joined the program, as you kind of started to make these shifts, like what were maybe some of the obstacles or challenges that you faced? Because a lot of people think, when they listen to these interviews, they just assume that everything was easy for the person, or they just assume that, oh, it must have just came easy and he lost a pound a week, every week, no matter what. What were some of the challenges and difficulties? Because I know there were some.
Yeah, absolutely. First, it was knowing that I was going to have to make a lifestyle change in all aspects. As you had pointed out whenever I first joined onto the program, of things that you needed to start doing at home, habits, getting mentally prepared to make those changes. For example, like me wanting to take supplements. That's something that we had discussed. And as far as like my vitamins, my multivitamins, how to manage all that, and getting just a pill container, right? And then having that mental checklist of every day seeing that pill bottle get empty, and it just created a system for myself. So that was the first obstacle, was getting prepared and getting ready for that change, and then changing eating habits, learning and educating myself through what you provided, and being able to prepare myself for that too, and being able to make that lifestyle change, because there's not just one aspect of, oh, I'm just going to work out. You have to change so many aspects about yourself if you really want to make that change and stay committed to it. That was the biggest obstacle, because you have to prepare for that mentally. And I think that's the one that I had to overcome. And just creating a schedule for myself, making sure that no matter what, that I'm making this investment in myself and my time, that I need to make sure that I blocked out, this is for me every day. And I did it just for myself.
Wow. Those are two very powerful, I'd say, perspectives and shifts. The first being the systems that we create in the lifestyle. You said it beautifully. You have to make this a lifestyle if you want to really get the results and keep them. And it's at least what we try to teach to clients, what we try to do with people. There's some people out there that they just want to get in shape for a vacation or to fit in a specific dress or a bikini or something. It's not typically what we do. Could we help those people? Sure. But we want people who want to shift from a lifestyle perspective, that they're somewhere and they want to be somewhere a little better. They want to live a longer life, healthier, happier, more active. They want to increase their lifespan and health span, and they want to be an example to other people and really make a big shift. So I love that you had that perspective going into it. And then the supplement example, not that supplements are like going to change your life, but it's an example of a small system that is, I think, indicative and maybe an example of something larger, which is a system in somebody's life doesn't have to be a complex spreadsheet with all these arrows and circles and squares everywhere. It could be as simple as it's a pill box on the counter, but it cues you to then do something that's a healthy habit. And the way habits work is that there's a cue, there's a routine, and then there's a reward. The cue is seeing the pill box on the counter. The habit is taking the supplements. And then the reward is like, I feel like a healthier person, or I confirm my identity of being an athlete and somebody who takes care of themselves.
Absolutely. And I think that was probably the biggest thing. And one of the things that I'm noticing you have as a whiteboard is I got myself a board as well. So what I did is I put on there what I want my goals to be for this year. And I thought I was being very, I was like, okay, maybe I'll reach this. One of my goals was to get a strength score of like 800. And just going through this and that process, I got it to 1200. So that kept me motivated. Putting those little boxes of things that I wanted to get done for myself have been instrumental. I set weekly goals on what I wanted to do. There was a specific exercise. I wanted to make sure that my form was absolutely correct for it. And then dedicating myself to really taking time with that exercise and making sure the form was proper, not getting the mindset of ego lifting. Oh, the weight's got to be this. Can I perform the exercise the way it needs to be done and do it consistently throughout the entire program? And I had a little note on myself. It's still up there to this day, and I'm still going to keep there going forward, is don't negotiate yourself. One of the things that I think we're easily able to do is to lie to ourselves. And so I told myself, if I was getting through that phase where things were tough, what's my excuse? Why am I not doing it? And be honest with myself. Is it an honest assessment of why you can't do it, or are you just being lazy? Whatever the case may be. And with that level of motivation, it made me get up, go get my workout done, because there was no excuse, and I was just lying to myself. So that's why don't negotiate yourself. Follow through, because you're good to know whether or not you can do it or not.
Wow, Justin, that's an incredible lesson for people listening. Not negotiating your goals, right, would be kind of how I hear that in my head and how I phrase it for myself. But I think that's just such a critical thing, because people do kind of negotiate their goals all the time, and they don't commit the way you committed, fully. They say, I'd like to do this, but then as soon as it gets difficult, they go, do I really want to do this? And it's almost in a constant negotiation or debate with themselves. There's a saying that I've heard before, which is like 99% is like really hard, 100% is easy, because when 100%, you cut off all other options, and it's really easy to just move forward. It's almost the burn the boats mentality a bit. So I think that's really critical, but also like people lying to themselves or people rationalizing to themselves all the time of like why they didn't do things. And I wrote an email about this not too long ago, and actually had a client who recently signed up, and he said, I signed up because you wrote this email, which was about last year, where me and my wife, we had just finished up 3 years of IVF. We made this really difficult decision to use a surrogate to have our child. Then I had no surgery immediately after that, septoplasty, nasal valve reconstruction, and turbinate reduction, just insane surgery on my face that took a long time to recover from. And I was kind of throwing a bit of a pity party for myself, feeling sorry for myself and not feeling super great and struggling. And it took me a very long time to kind of get back in the swing of things, to hit my stride again, and to kind of feel like the Action Jackson version of myself. And for many months after that, it was kind of like lying to myself or negotiating with myself and my goals of, well, do I really have to do that? Oh, well, I had surgery. We just finished this IVF thing. We're going through a hard time. Like, it's a tough year. And I kept reiterating these things to myself until basically I woke up and said, gosh, my wife is crushing it. She's doing super well. And she was the one that had to go through all the hormones and stuff. And I'm sitting here throwing a pity party for myself and not doing the things that I need to be doing. I'm not on my health and fitness. I'm having heart palpitations due to overstress and not enough exercise. And I really need to get my mental health and my physical health. and my business back to where it needs to be. And I had this wake up call where I finally stopped negotiating with myself, stopped lying to myself, got honest about where I was actually really at, and then took action and started moving forward. And the last couple of months I've been feeling a lot like more like myself. I've been working harder, exercising more, but feeling so much better and stronger physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I really love that frame. Where did these ideas come from you? Was it from the coaching? Is this stuff that was just kind of like inherently in you? Was this stuff that you learned in the military? Where did some of these kinds of, I guess, mental frameworks come from? Because these are powerful things that people need to know and learn.
Yeah, and I think it's a culmination of everything: life experiences, the program, the education, training, discipline. It's a culmination of everything. And we all, at some point, like you mentioned about yourself, we all find those periods in our lives where, okay, we're down on ourselves, maybe having a pity party, and it's up to us to make that decision to want to change. And for me, I learned that very early on when I was young. I'm an orphan, and my father passed away very young. So I had to learn early on in life how to be able to pick myself back up and move forward. And it's not always easy, but if you have the will and the capacity to do the change, then be honest with yourself and ask yourself, can you do it? And if you can, then there's no excuse. Just do it, and get it done if you want to make those changes in your life. And the other thing is the education and training that you provide. It touched on so many points that you feel like I went back and knew from my past, and then it was just like, oh wow, I kind of remember this. And then you had your own explaining it in more detail. I was like, well, I didn't even know that. So now I understand more of the why behind it. So that level of education just made things a lot easier and a lot smoother.
Wow, I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry that you lost your dad and had to go through that. And I think a lot of people get hung up on whether they're going through IVF or whether they have surgery or they lose a parent or all these things. I had my dream job, pulled out of my hands. Like, bad things happen to everybody, no matter what, phase of life that you're in. If you're in a good phase, it's just probably the calm before the storm and something's going to happen. But bad things happen to everybody, including great people, even people who work hard, everything. But the thing is that nobody actually, life doesn't really care. Life just keeps moving on. And it really is up to yourself to pick yourself up and say, you know what? I have to move forward from here. I have to put one foot in front of the other, because nobody's going to pick me up and wait for me. Nobody's coming to save me. There's no cavalry coming. I have to do it. And I have to, get up my bootstraps and pull myself up and move. And that's a really powerful and important lesson, because I've heard Alex Hormozi talk about this before, but he says, okay, so you've had this really bad thing that happened to you. And so what? What are you going to do now is really kind of the question, because you could have this bad thing that happened to you, and that could be the reason that you never get in shape. Like, is that what you want to do? And I've had some people who've gone through the program, or some people who might have struggled at different times. And when I speak to them and have a conversation, we get a little deep and kind of go and dive into things. It's like, well, this bad thing, or maybe I have this, genetics, or I've had a bunch of travel. I got sick a couple of times. And it's like, okay, well, do you want this to be the reason that you failed and never got in shape for the rest of your life because a couple of bad things happened, you had a bad string of luck? Or do you want to be the person that persevered, that was resilient, that came out the other side? And as Winston Churchill says, when you're going through hell, keep walking. I think about that all the time when I'm going through tough times in my life. The people we admire, the pro athletes, whether it's athletes or actors, or sometimes even fictional characters, the people that we admire are people who go through really difficult things and overcome them. And I think there's this sort of thing that happens in society where we want to praise and we want to value other people for doing it. But what we should be doing is putting ourselves as like the hero of our own journey and story, and stepping up and saying, you know what, I'm going to be the person that's leading by example. I'm going to be the one that overcomes, because why clap and applaud for other people and watch other people realize their dreams? What about my dreams? What about what I want to do? And the only way that's going to happen is if I start taking action. So I really love that frame. What are any other insights, obstacles that you might have faced, breakthroughs, things that people can kind of use and kind of like dig their teeth into to kind of help them move forward on their journeys? If there's anything else that you have.
As far as just any other insight is just believe in yourself, just stick with it, and do the best that you can. Don't get caught up on find those little goals, yeah, to keep yourself motivated. But like on the tonal, looking at your strength score and stuff like that, that's not a measure of who you are and what you can do. It's just it's a goal. It's something that you can achieve and attain, and something to motivate yourself towards. And I used little things like that here and there to keep myself motivated. These little goals that, what's my win going to be for today? Not what I'm trying to do 3, 4 months from now. What am I going to do today that's going to be my win that can motivate me to go into the next day? I did my measurements today. My arms are a little bit bigger. My waist got a little bit smaller. Find those positive moments of what you're going through in your journey and use that to motivate you to go forward. That would be the best insight I think I can give.
Yeah, I think when it comes to strength score, I think people get a little obsessed with it, to be honest. Now, I think it's good to have strength score goals like you did, because again, they keep you motivated, they keep you kind of driven. It's exciting to kind of chase after something. We all need kind of something to run away from and something to run towards, which is the best situation we could be in. But I think sometimes people can go after it by sacrificing their technique in ego lifting. And you had a strength score goal. You wanted to get to 800, which you blew that out the water. But you also said something earlier in our conversation, which was you knew that your technique maybe wasn't as dialed in on at least one or more exercises as it could have been. And you wanted to shore that up first and not do the ego lifting thing. So I think that's a really important kind of balance that you were thinking through and striking. And I guess, where did it come from where you were like, oh, I should really work on my technique? Where did that idea come from, if and why was that so important to you to shore that up before chasing the strength score? Because so many people just go strength score and don't even think about their technique.
I think a lot of that comes from my prior experience in the military and going through training as an NCO. You had to go through I would say like a PT school would be the best way to say it. So that way, when you're doing PT in the morning, you know the why of why you're doing certain exercises with your soldiers and that sort of thing, and knowing that having the proper form was the most important thing versus how much you're lifting, and making sure that you're connecting with the right muscle versus doing a push up with your elbows flared out versus in, and the impacts it's going to have on specific muscle groups when you do that. So when you provide a video like you did, it was detailed. You went in with explanation as to the why, and then so those added benefits. So with combining with what little knowledge I thought I knew, and then what you armed me with, and then incorporating that into the exercise, it's literally right there. Do what Jackson said. Listen to the workouts, and just do it. Don't focus on the weight. Keep your form straight, keep it to where it needs to be. If you need the feedback, reach out to the coaches and just get it done. And then that was how I approached it.
Yeah. I think people could really benefit from what you said there, which is understanding the why behind what they're doing, especially when it comes to exercise. So often people jump in, and whether they're doing bicep curls or a pull down or something. I posted this thing on Instagram today about a lat pull down and a little bit of a hack or a tweak where you adjust the way you sit and you get a better stretch in your lats. And so often people will do exercises and they don't even know what muscle they're supposed to be targeting or what muscle they're supposed to be hitting. They don't know what muscle it's working. They couldn't identify that muscle. And not that you need a degree in kinesiology, but it's like, okay, if I'm doing a lat pull down, like, what is that? Well, it's okay. That's my lats. Well, where is my lats? Okay, it's this muscle here. Oh, wow. This is the muscle I'm supposed to be activating. Okay, great. What does it feel like when that muscle contracts? Let me pull my arm down. Okay, that's what it feels like. Now let me go into the exercise with a little bit of understanding of at least what I'm trying to accomplish here so that I can execute at a little bit of a higher level. Like if you go into exercises blindly, you don't know what muscle you're trying to work, you have no idea on the technique, and you're just throwing the weights around, number one, you're probably going to get hurt. But number two, you're not going to get the results that you're after. And we see this time and time again with people that come into the program. And sometimes people think, oh, I don't need any help on my technique. And then we see what they're doing from a technique perspective. And we're like, oh my God, I don't know how this person hasn't killed themselves yet. They need a lot of work. But it's just understanding a little bit of depth and knowledge. Like, get curious with stuff. Sometimes people, they want to do fitness and they want to get in shape, but they're not like that into it. But what's funny is like you can kind of trick yourself into really like having a deeper knowledge and understanding of things if you just get curious. I read this in a book called Indistractable by Nir Eyal. Fantastic book for people. It's not just about distractions when it comes to technology and work and productivity, but there's so much in there about actually eating healthy and dialing in your diet and stuff, because so frequently people distract themselves with food. But one of the things he talks about is like, if you want to kind of get curious about something or really get into something, like just dive a little deeper, like ask yourself questions about it. What muscle is this really working? How does that muscle work? What if I change the way I sit? What if I change my arm angle? What if I move faster or slower? What would that feel like? And by getting a little curious about things, it starts to dive down all these little rabbit holes, and you start to try things and tweak and adjust and go, oh, wow, that feels so much different. That's exciting. And it just tweaks and kind of adjusts this different level of curiosity and insight and awareness that you then get, that you could then apply to really make yourself a lot better and get more out of what you're doing, right? There's two ways of doing things. Like you can change what you're doing, but you could also just get more out of what you're doing by improving your technique. And I think that's often overlooked. So I think that's really cool. Well, Justin, I obviously want to be respectful of your time, but I just have like one or two more kind of questions here.
Sure.
Now, so many people battle with, we've talked a lot about the training stuff. We talked a lot about mindset stuff, but I want to ask you specifically about nutrition stuff, because so many people struggle with this.
Yeah.
How did you manage the food stuff, making changes to the foods that you're eating, whether it was tracking macros or just adjusting the stuff that you're eating, going out with friends or having a few cocktails? Like, how did you deal with all this kind of stuff to make a lifestyle change so that you could lose the 23 pounds and the 10% body fat?
Yeah, so that was something that I have very little experience with, and thankfully, the coaches were phenomenal with answering my questions when I was asking them specifically. But what I did is I chose the foods that I knew I would enjoy and that fit within the meal plan that was given to me, and I created a detailed list I went on ChatGPT and I put in a bunch of ingredients of things that I knew that I could eat and that were part of my meal plan. Boom, it put in there, gave me a list of recipes. I picked those out and I just created them. And then it came after a while to where I had a steady schedule of what it is that I was eating, playing around with intermittent fasting for one of the phases, to where I get in, I have my coffee, and then I wouldn't eat until a certain period of time in the day, and it was just creating that schedule for myself as well, and knowing and tracking what it was that I was eating. So the visual element of tracking my food, I think, was the most important, because like when I input something in, it was like, now I feel like I was getting so much education of things that I was eating and seeing how many calories, protein, carbs, and fats was in it versus the things that I was eating now. And I'm just like, huge difference. That was definitely one of the hardest things to get adjusted to, but it was easy once you just started putting in the work, putting in the effort. I would say the first few weeks it gets a little monotonous, just like, man. But then after a while, if you, depending on what you're using, you can just save it. It's literally just click it, add it from what it is from maybe the previous days. Because I had a protein shake that I normally keep, helps me hit a lot of my protein and calorie goals for my current meal plan, and that was always going to be a part of my lunch or one of my snacks. So little things like that, protein bars, going out to eat with friends. That later on, that first phase, no cheating, stay true to yourself, don't negotiate yourself. Is one of the reasons why I put that up there too, is to stay motivated during that phase. So knocking that out and then having that first week of being able to go out, have a drink, have a little cheat meal, didn't get too carried away. And then also too, that if I went into the next week, I didn't tell myself, hey, you have a cheat meal every week. I just said, no cheat meal this week, I don't need one. No cheat meal this week, I don't need one. So I just stayed with my current plan. And whenever it came around, like the opportunity presented itself to go out to eat and go have a drink, it was like, okay, great. And just did. And still with that conscious mindset of what to look out for and what to eat.
Wow. A lot to unpack there. So many good nuggets of wisdom, starting with just like trying to find foods that you actually like that also align up with your goals, which I think is critical, because if you're eating foods that you hate, it's just not going to work out for you. And certainly you can shift your taste buds. When you start eating different foods, yes, you can start to change your taste buds. You can start to shift your mindset. We had a client once named Kelvin who was the self-proclaimed pickiest eater of all time. He would eat a salad once per year, and he said he would gag it down. And then by the time he did one of these interviews for me, he was eating salads like almost every single day. So you can absolutely shift your taste buds, shift kind of the foods that you like and your perspective on things. And eating a salad can go from I hate this to I'm fueling my body. Actually, I do like this. But you want to find some foods, and with a little experimentation, you could do this. You can find foods that still taste good, that you still like, that scratch the itch in many different ways, but also still fit your goals, right? You like bacon, okay, switch to turkey bacon. Is it the 10 out of 10? No, but then when you do go to brunch, maybe once a week or whatever, and you have the regular bacon, you're going to love it a lot more. That's for sure. In turkey bacon, way healthier, way less calories, way better for you, but it still scratches the itch. I had turkey bacon this morning. That's why it's on my mind. So you got to find foods that you're going to still enjoy, scratch the itch, but are just going to be lower in calories and better for your macros to kind of hit your numbers a little better and fit into this new lifestyle that you want to create and help you hit your goals. So I think that's a really important part and thing that you got to talk about. And then the other thing is that, you know, when you're going out with friends and doing these things, we kind of changed our languaging a lot around this. We used to call it a cheat meal, and now we just call it like an untracked meal. I think it removes a lot of emotion out of this kind of thing. But also my strategy, what I do is I say, I don't want to have a scheduled one every single week. It feels a little bit overkill to me, especially given my background and history where I used to do cheat days and cheat meals and go to Sprinkles Cupcakes 95 times in a year. So now what I do is to what you do, same thing. Just let it happen organically. These things are going to come up. Your friends are going to hit you up and say, let's go out to a brewery, and you're going to want to go. So instead of scheduling a certain day, just let it happen. Or you're going to go to over to a friend's house to watch a football game or something, or a birthday party for your kids, and they're going to have nothing but pizza. And you're like, okay, well, I guess we're eating pizza now. And those things can happen, and they can happen and become part of the plan and even happen guilt-free if you don't have these kind of scheduled in cheat days or cheat meals all the time, and you just let them happen organically, because they're going to probably happen anyway. So as we kind of wrap things up here, any last kind of takeaways, things you want to kind of share with somebody? If somebody's sitting out there and saying, well, you know, Justin's amazing and he can do it, but like, I don't know if I can, you know, what would you say to that person that's sitting out there?
Don't doubt yourself. I think for a while I was doing the same thing. I was like, oh man, I'm 40 years old now. I can't do the things that I used to do when I was in my 20s. Is it even worth trying those sort of things? And then it's all about taking action. And I think that would be the biggest thing to say here is just to, if you want to make that change, you want to make that improvement in your life, you have to be the one to say, hey, I want to get it done. I want to make this change, and you have to do it. You have to execute it. You don't negotiate yourself, get it done, and lean on your coaches. Stay motivated, have fun with it. And if you can turn your training into a moment to where it's like, oh man, I got to work out today versus sweet, I get to work out in like an hour. I can't wait. It'll change your entire mind shift towards it, and you'll be even more motivated to get it done.
Yeah. Shifting your mindset on things is one of the best ways, I think, of executing and doing it at a high level and changing how you feel about it. Because there's a couple of different ways of approaching things, right? There's certain things you have to do. You have to file your taxes every year or pay them. You have to obviously work out. You can't be just eating buffalo wings and drinking beer every single day. So there's two different ways to do this. You could say, this stinks, this is punishment, or this feels restrictive, or I don't like this. Or you could say, you know what? Wow, I'm actually excited I can do this. You know, paying your taxes means that you made a lot of money this year. That's a good thing. I remember when I got my first tax bill, when I first started my personal training business, you know, don't realize you have to pay taxes on all this stuff. And I go, holy cow, I got to pay $20,000 in taxes. This is crazy. Why do I have to do that? My accountant says, well, because you didn't pay taxes all year. So now you have to pay them now. And I'm like, oh my God. And at first I was kind of angry and pissed off and mad at myself, of course. But then I was like, wait, I actually have the money in my account. I could write a $20,000 check. This is the biggest check I'd ever written to that point in my life. I was like, I could write a $20,000 check and still be okay and have money in my account. Like, wow, this is really cool. That's a different perspective. And also, I made money in my business, my first year in business. This is awesome that I actually have the opportunity to have to pay taxes because I did well. So there's different ways of shifting how you think about things. And the two questions that I like to use for this is, what would this look like if it were fun? And what would this look like if it were easy? Those are two different ways. Or another thing that you could think through is just like, what would be the mindset that I would need to have in order to be successful with this and like feel good about it? Another great question you could ask yourself. So I think that's really important. And the last thing I'll kind of just share and say is, you're right about it never being too late and to get started and to just simply take action. That's why Action Jackson is the name of my alter ego. It's why the company is called Action Jackson Fitness. My podcast called Taking Action with Coach Jackson. It's why that it's such a staple part of everything I talk about, is because I've lived it. I was 30 years old and as a software architect and hated my job and didn't want to do it anymore. And people were like, well, you're 30. It's too late to change now. Or is it? Because I did change, and it was really hard for a period of time, and it delayed a lot of things that I wanted. I wanted to get married and have kids and all this stuff, and that all got put on the back burner. And thankfully, I have those things now. I love my wife, and we have a beautiful son, and all very exciting things. But they're happening a little bit later in life because I decided to change and take action and quit my job and to get certified as a personal trainer at 30 years old and get in and completely change my career when everyone thought I was nuts and crazy and stupid. But anyone that's listened to this podcast or has watched my videos on YouTube or seen my workouts on Tonal says, boy, I'm so glad that you did this and this is awesome. I could have said no. I could have just followed the crowd and been like, it's too late. I'm over the hill. I'm already 30. It's too late to change careers now. So we'll kind of leave it at that. Justin, I just want to acknowledge you for a quick second. Like, yes, the stats are great, down 23 pounds, 10% body fat, increase your strength score by 668 points. Those stats are amazing. But what's more amazing is the fact that you took action, you didn't doubt yourself, you put one foot in front of the other, and regardless of when it got hard and difficult and it was uncomfortable, you still kept pushing forward and you just executed like an absolute beast. And I'm so proud of you, and we're so excited for the progress that you made. And we're so thankful, not just that you shared your story here today, but that you entrusted us with your health and your fitness. And it's been such an honor to work with you, my friend. It's been so exciting and so fun watching you transform and being a small part of your journey. These are the most fun things that I ever do, is getting to share people's stories like yourself, because it just gets me all broken up and emotional. Because I just think about how fitness has changed my life and what it's done for me and where I would be if I didn't have it. And I'm just so grateful for fitness and everything it's done for me. And there's a part of me that every time I help somebody like yourself and we do these interviews and I see how you've changed, that just kind of like almost heals the part of me that was lost and that was broken when my mom passed away. So thank you so much for executing, for doing everything that you've done. Thank you for all the hard work, for trusting us, for working so hard, for changing things. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Your journey is so much more important than you think, because I know people are going to learn lessons from this. They're going to see this. People are going to change, but also the people around you that see you every day. I know 100% it's impacted people. Whether they've told you or not, I know it's impacted people. So you're doing a wonderful thing, man. You're leading by example. And I just appreciate the hell out of you. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you too for the tremendous help, the guidance you guys have given me on this journey. And I'm not stopping there, because it has become a lifestyle. It's something I look forward to doing every day. After our interview here, I'm actually going to go ahead, get dressed, and get ready to do my workout this evening. And as far as motivating others, I've seen it. My girlfriend now works out a lot more. My daughters love it. They're looking to get into the gym. They ask me all the time about exercising. You're absolutely right. It does help and motivate others. So again, thank you to you and all the coaches for all the help and guidance you've given me.
All right. Well, you heard the man. Action's the difference. So take action today.